the whisper of skin scraping against holy stone floors. It's the evening of October 30th, 1501, and you're tucked away in the secluded chambers of the highest religious authority. Your body feels locked in place, words stuck in your throat. The goblet in your grip shakes slightly, but you hold onto it tightly, because letting it go would mean facing the nightmare unfolding before you. Surrounding you are high-ranking church officials in their deep red garments, most gazing downward in discomfort. A few murmur quiet pleas to the heavens. Others squeeze their eyes shut, trying to block out the scene. And there, slithering across the revered tiles of this sacred stronghold, 50 unclothed women scramble on all fours, picking up scattered nuts as the supreme leader observes from his elevated seat. His chuckles fill the air. But what truly chills you to your core is realizing this spectacle is merely the opening act. The young bride has no idea yet what her own father has in store for her as the night deepens. Something meticulously vicious, designed not to end her life, but to shatter her spirit completely. Hang on tight, because the truths I'm about to uncover have been concealed for half a millennium. By the time we're done, you'll see exactly why they've stayed hidden. This is the account of Eleanor Hawthorne and the evening that ought to have condemned the entire religious institution to eternal infamy. If this tale pulls you in, give it a thumbs up. It's quick, and it lets us unearth more forgotten stories from the shadows. Let's rewind a few weeks to early October 1501. A young nobleman approaches the grand entrances of the Eternal City, feeling like a man doomed to the executioner's block. Edmund Fairfax, successor to a prosperous region in northern Italy, just 25, hails from a lineage that's governed with honor for centuries. Yet terror grips him now. You're entering the heart of unparalleled influence to wed a woman whose previous two spouses met grim ends. The initial one was branded incapable in the most public and degrading way, cast aside once his purpose faded. The next was ambushed with blades right on the steps of the Holy Palace. When he clung to life, her sibling dispatched assassins to finish him off in his recovery bed, even as Eleanor cried out and hammered desperately against the barrier. That horror was barely a year and a half past. Now, it's Edmund's fate to step into that shadow. He'd exhausted every ploy to avoid this union, fabricated reasons, postponed arrangements. His own father pleaded with the supreme leader to select another match. The reply from the center of power was blunt: embrace this bond or witness your lands scorched by invading forces. So, here he rides, into a welcome crafted to crush his resolve. Reginald Hawthorne, the exalted figurehead, greets him in the opulent audience hall. At 69, he's a bulky presence, exuding authority like flames from a blaze. His gaze sweeps over Edmund appraisingly, much like a merchant evaluating merchandise. To his side is Victor Hawthorne, 26, once a church dignitary now transformed into a military commander, the very man who oversaw the demise of Edmund's predecessor in that marriage. Throughout the encounter, Victor remains silent, merely observing with a subtle grin, akin to a predator sizing up its next meal. For the ensuing 3 weeks, Edmund withstands a barrage of indignities masked as festivities. Lavish dinners where he's placed beside elegant companions while the religious elite exchange knowing smirks. Outings into the wilderness for hunts, during which Victor showcases his deadly precision with weapons, felling game with effortless accuracy that feels like a veiled threat. Gatherings where Reginald himself quips lightly about the fates of those who came before Edmund, his laughter echoing as if recounting amusing anecdotes rather than tragedies. Each evening, Edmund pens missives to his family back home, acutely aware that prying eyes intercept them, pondering which dawn might bring his undoing. He finds himself wandering the corridors of the palace late at night, unable to sleep, the weight of unseen watchers pressing on him. In one such moment, he overhears whispers from servants, tales of past visitors who vanished without trace, their rooms cleared as if they'd never existed. It only heightens his dread, making every shadow seem alive with menace. Then arrives the day of the ceremony itself, held in the magnificent sacred hall with walls adorned in gleaming precious metals, illuminated by countless flickering flames. Depictions of divine figures gaze down upon the gathered crowd, their painted eyes seeming to judge the proceedings. The aroma of ritual smoke hangs heavy, almost suffocating. Reginald Hawthorne presides over the rites personally, his resonant tones filling the space as he intones the ancient vows that will link his offspring to her latest partner. Edmund positions himself before the altar, his fingers trembling uncontrollably. He senses Victor's piercing stare boring into him from behind, cool and unyielding, like a hunter tracking a wounded animal that's unaware of its predicament. Beside him is Eleanor, 21, her fair locks styled into intricate patterns laced with shimmering gems. Her attire, crafted from luxurious fabrics interwoven with threads of gold, could rival the wealth of entire communities. Her appearance is striking, almost painfully so, drawing the eye inevitably. Yet it's her gaze that truly arrests you, devoid of spark, not filled with sorrow or rage or apprehension, but simply hollow, as though her essence departed long ago and left only a shell behind. The previous evening, as her attendants readied her belongings for the move, Eleanor had lingered by her chamber's opening, overlooking the sprawling metropolis below, the place of her birth, where she'd witnessed her beloved's life ebb away on those very steps, a city that had stripped her bare and still hungered for more. One of her companions, a fresh-faced girl from a southern coastal town, ventured to ask if anticipation bubbled within her for the upcoming union. Eleanor offered a faint curve of her lips, one that failed to light her features, a practiced expression honed in environments where genuine feelings invited peril. Anticipation, she echoed softly, as if sampling an unfamiliar term. Indeed, how could I not be? Sleep evaded her that night. Instead, she sought solace in a small private sanctuary nearby, dropping to her knees on the unforgiving surface until the first light crept in, beseeching a higher power that had remained silent through all her trials. Not during the dissolution of her initial bond, when she was labeled tarnished and disposable, not amid the slaughter of Marcus in the adjacent space, not in all her 21 years. Still, she persisted in her supplications, for it was the sole act that remained wholly hers, untouched by others' control. Now, at the altar, she recites promises she holds no faith in, to a stranger she barely knows, under the direction of a parent who views her merely as a bargaining chip. She's mastered the art of concealing her inner turmoil within her kin, understanding that displays of vulnerability can be turned against you, that affection can morph into a lethal instrument plunged into your heart. Her words emerge toneless, scarcely alive. Edmund mirrors her detachment. Two souls enacting a charade devoid of conviction, encircled by figures who've already scripted their destinies. The bands are slipped on. Reginald declares them united. Then he beams, a broad, calculating grin, proclaiming that the genuine revelry is about to commence. The assembly is ushered into the lavish private quarters for the marital banquet. Heavy portals seal shut. Sentries station themselves at all points of departure, and Eleanor experiences a sensation dormant for ages, not terror, for she's transcended that, but a stark, icy assurance that her father is poised to impart yet another harsh teaching. Whatever form it takes, she'll endure it as she has all else, retreating to an inner sanctuary beyond their grasp, rendering herself void before they can hollow her out. The meal unfolds much like any grand noble affair at first. Elaborate dishes featuring exotic birds, garnished with edible precious metals, piles of rare produce from distant lands, libations so fine that a single vessel outvalues a laborer's annual toil. Entertainers strum melodies, bards deliver odes extolling the newlyweds' virtues. Mirth reverberates against the ornate surfaces. Time slips by. The drinks circulate freely. Exchanges grow bolder, more uninhibited. A handful of attendees start to unwind. Edmund nearly convinces himself this is merely a standard celebration. But then he spots the increased number of armed watchers. He notes Victor hasn't sampled his drink once. He catches Reginald's fixed regard upon him, not benevolent but anticipatory, like an audience member awaiting the curtain's rise. As the hour nears midnight, Victor rises to his feet. The chamber hushes abruptly, as though an invisible force has muted every tongue. He strides to the adjacent entrances and issues a hushed directive. They swing wide. 50 ladies step inside, clad in sumptuous outfits of rich textiles and sparkling adornments that reflect the ambient glow. These aren't ordinary companions, they're the city's most refined escorts, typically catering to the elite of society, from spiritual leaders to foreign envoys. Yet their expressions betray unease, pupils dilated in alarm, flicking toward the barred ways out. Reginald ascends from his seat, chalice aloft, his grin expanding. At last, he declares the evening's highlight commences. On his signal, the women commence disrobing. Garments cascade to the ground one after another, fabrics pooling at their feet. 50 figures stand exposed amid the gathering of ecclesiastical princes. Some avert their eyes in shame. Others grip their devotional beads, whispering invocations that ring hollow here. A scattering of junior members incline forward, their inhibitions loosened by indulgence. Edmund fixes his stare on his dish, his grasp tight on his utensil, veins standing out, but Reginald presses on. Attendants appear with containers brimming with nuts, strewing them haphazardly across the expanse. Countless pieces tumble amid the stunned onlookers' limbs, vanishing beneath furnishings, carpeting the hallowed surface. Then the leader outlines the contest. The participants must navigate on hands and knees to retrieve the items. The victor claims treasures from the sacred coffers, elegant wraps, ornate chains, precious stones. Envision it. 50 bear forms scrambling beneath the robes of high clerics, past artworks depicting holy icons, over pavements trodden by spiritual guides for ages. The noises, limbs grinding against rock. The soft clatter of gathered nuts in unsteady palms, muffled cries, and overlaying it amusement. Reginald's guffaws, Victor's chuckles, ricocheting off the embellished barriers like echoes from an infernal feast. Certain participants hurl the nuts further, prolonging the ordeal. Others remain petrified, their thoughts reeling from the blasphemy. An aged official attempts to depart, rising unsteadily. Watchers impede him. He collapses back into his place, head bowed for the duration. And Eleanor. She perches immobile next to Edmund, her countenance revealing naught. She's perfected the skill of mental escape during her family's displays. It's her shield for perseverance. The event drags on interminably. When it concludes, the women cluster in shadowed nooks, clinging to their demeaning rewards, avoiding all gazes. Edmund assumes the worst has passed. He's mistaken, for Reginald stands once more, uttering phrases that will resonate through the annals for 5 centuries. The holy obligation of wedlock, he proclaims, demands fulfillment forthwith. In typical unions, such matters occur behind closed doors, perhaps with discreet verification later. Awkward, yet customary among the aristocracy. What Reginald mandates diverges wildly. Edmund and Eleanor must complete the act thrice this very night, with the entire assemblage bearing witness. A profound quiet descends, not mere stillness, but a void where breath halts collectively. Even Victor betrays a momentary astonishment. This exceeds his expectations. Edmund leaps up, his complexion ashen as weathered ivory. As a noble hare, he's been schooled in poise, integrity, the tenets of high birth. Now he's commanded to enact life's most private ritualist spectacle. He scans the enforcers, Victor's relaxed posture by his blade, Reginald's unwavering beam. No retreat possible. They're escorted to a neighboring space, typically reserved for diplomatic meetings, now equipped with a lavish resting platform veiled in fine cloths. The entrances stay ajar. Observers are arranged with unobstructed views. What transpires in the ensuing hours erodes every vestige of personal honor, leaving only raw exposure and mortification. Edmund, his psyche fractured, encircled by vigilant arms and prying sights, proceeds mechanically. His consciousness flees to distant realms. Eleanor reclines, her focus locked on the overhead artistry, utterly mute. Having outlasted 2 prior bonds, she excels at detaching her essence from her form, transforming into a mere container until the tempest subsides. But this is what truly devastates. Following the initial instance, Victor strides in personally. He examines the proofs with impersonal scrutiny. Then he broadcasts, for all to hear, that the first completion is confirmed. He instructs a 1-hour interlude before resumption. Picture that interval. Edmund perches on the platform's edge, averting his bride's direction. Eleanor remains prone, unseeing. Low murmurs drift from the adjacent area. Helpers replenish refreshments for captives unable to flee, and the looming awareness that in 60 ticks, it recommences. The second occurrence unfolds near 2 in the morning. Both operate in utter disconnection now, forms functioning sans awareness. Humanity deactivated to avert insanity. In the outer space, officials intone supplications that sour on their tongues. The earlier humiliated escorts shed quiet tears for Eleanor. Even the sentinels fidget restlessly, yet intervention is absent. Voices stay silent, because the Supreme commands it, and he represents divine will. As dawn's faint hues brush the panes, Reginald calls for the ultimate repetition. Upon its end, Victor declares victoriously that the bond is triply affirmed, utterly binding by sacred and worldly edicts. No dissolution feasible, no loophole, no evasion. Reginald lifts his vessel for a concluding salute. Edmund hunkers at the bed's rim, cradling his skull, quivering entirely. He'll depart for his homeland a shattered soul, never uttering this ordeal to kin, offspring, or any. And Eleanor lies unmoving in her ceremonial dress, lids parted but vacant. Her inner self has withdrawn so profoundly it might never resurface. They aim to ruin her vitality without ceasing her pulse. They achieved it. Now, pause here and consider a query often overlooked in chronicles. How does such depravity emerge? No one arises one day resolved to demolish their child before dozens. This malice accumulates gradually over time until the reflection shows only monstrosity. Flashback to Valencia in 1431. A youth named Reginald enters the world in the Hawthorne clan, modest gentry, honorable but unremarkable. Then his maternal uncle ascends to the pinnacle of faith. Suddenly, fortunes shift. The Hawthornes transcend obscurity. They're kin to Christendom's mightiest. Reginald relocates to the grand city at 16. The environment he encounters molds him irrevocably. The local aristocracy scorns them as outsiders, foreign interlopers. At social events, Reginald observes the elite muttering covertly. He absorbs the sneers, the disdain, the conviction that his bloodline is inferior. A resolve solidifies within. He realizes that in this realm, righteousness is facade. Those sermonizing modesty dwell in opulence. Guardians of chastity harbor secret lovers. The machinery thrives on dominance alone, all else is veneer. Thus, Reginald abandons assimilation for conquest. He secures a high ecclesiastical post through favors at 25. He sires offspring brazenly, constructs a web of informants and eliminators spanning the land. By 1492, he maneuvers to the summit via similar means. By then, he's embraced the city's doctrine: holy individuals are instruments. Affection is manipulation. Kin isn't refuge, but weaponry. Victor served as his enforcer, groomed early in brutality and remorselessness. Elevated to rank at 18 not for piety but expedience. When warfare proved superior, he shed his vestments unhesitatingly. He overran territories, dispatched foes in slumber, tainted banquets. A keen observer of politics noted Victor and mused. Hair embodies the ideal ruler. But Eleanor, she was the perpetual commodity. From her earliest comprehension, she grasped that her worth lay not in her being, but in alliances she could forge. Her allure wasn't blessing but inventory. Initial pairing at 13 to Henry Caldwell. By 1497, the pact outlived utility. The Hawthornes sought annulment, citing Henry's inadequacy, broadcast humiliatingly. a fabrication so transparent the continent chuckled, yet unchallenged. Eleanor, absorbed your form, your standing, even veracity, all family property. Second union at 17 to Marcus Beaumont, and the twist of fate genuine fondness blossom. Accounts depict her radiance upon his arrival, their strolls in verdant enclosures, sharing joys like unburdened youths discovering authenticity. Then Victor deemed Marcus expendable. The botched assault left him wounded but alive. Eleanor tended him personally, preparing sustenance, distrusting others. For a full cycle of the moon, she battled for his survival, harboring belief in victory. Then Victor's agents invaded, ejecting her, extinguishing his life as she wailed and battered the portal. She was 19. That's when Eleanor ceased as a vibrant entity, becoming a specter in human guise. By her third nuptials, she'd internalized the clan's ultimate doctrine: optimism is the sharpest blade. It fosters illusions of change. Its theft inflicts wounds profounder than perpetual despair. The spectacle in those chambers wasn't her fracture, it was the grandest exhibition of a lifelong erosion. In mere days, whispers of the affair ripple across continents like a contagion. Diplomats dispatch coded reports to distant courts. The missives evoke stunned revulsion. One envoy pens, "The Vatican horrors eclipse the empire's bleakest epochs." But fate for those involved. Reginald perishes 2 years hence, perhaps by toxin, fitting for one who wielded it often. Victor forfeits all upon his sire's demise, meeting his end in 1507, waylaid abroad, his remains mutilated and interred anonymously. Their construct devoured them, and Eleanor endured 18 more years. The trek to her new domain spanned a month. Onlookers noted her muteness, gazing at vistas unseen. She remained wordless for the initial trio of days. Cohabiting with Edmund proved frosty. He struggled to meet her eyes. Their partnership lingered in eternal chill. Meals passed in quietude. Offspring arrived from obligation. The unvoiced trauma loomed like an insurmountable barrier. Yet Eleanor defied oblivion. She immersed in benevolence, mingling with the populace, supporting creators and scholars. Defying odds, she garnered adoration in her adopted land, dubbed the Benevolent Lady. She bore 8 young ones, managed affairs adeptly, earning esteem through deeds. Still, confidences whispered of her nocturnal terrors, her distant stares in discourse, her prolonged vigils in chill sanctums imploring an unresponsive deity. She shunned the origin city lifelong. Her passing came in 1519, birthing her final heir at 39. Her parting utterance: "At last, liberation awaits." Why resonate 5 centuries on? It's beyond the hawthorns. It's the framework of ruin. Safeguards morph into destroyers. Unchecked might preys on intimates. That October Eve wasn't anomaly but pinnacle of tyranny. When the apex figure engineers such, amid passive subordinates, it unveils horror. Rot wasn't defect but essence. Efforts to entomb the narrative. Archives purged, Elias Whittaker's journal secreted for eras. But they overlooked it. Parchments burn, tongues hush, tales rewrite, yet inner scars persist. Inscriptions in memory endure. Elias chronicled knowing peril, compelled by truth's burden. Silence equates complicity. The departed merit testifiers. Centuries later his record surfaces. Eleanor Hawthorne was slated for erasure, a mere entry, a deal. Instead, she transcended. Her progenitor succumbed to venom, perhaps self-inflicted. Her kin shredded overseas. The apparatus ingested them. But Eleanor forged existence from debris, nurtured progeny ignorant of that darkness, evolved into the cherished guardian, departed not as Hawthorne, but self-forged. They sought her living demise. She persisted regardless. That's the enduring wisdom. Authority strips flesh, honor, aspiration, twists blood into tormentors, transforms unions into sepulchres. Yet it can't seize your resolve to persist, your core identity, your inner declaration amid obscurity. I remain. Eleanor clung to that through atrocities, for 18 years till her close. I endure. Half a millennium hence, her legacy does too. If this moves you, join us. We excavate obscured annals. The bygone lives on, To expand this further and make it truly immersive, let's delve deeper into Eleanor's early years, painting a fuller picture of how the seeds of this tragedy were sown. Imagine her as a child, growing up in the opulent but treacherous halls of power. At just 5 years old, she recalls her first vivid memory, hiding behind heavy curtains in her father's study, listening to him negotiate alliances with stern-faced men from across the seas. Their voices rise and fall like waves, discussing lands, armies, and marriages as if they were mere commodities on a market stall. She doesn't understand all the words, but she feels the chill in the air, the way her father's tone shifts from warm when he speaks to her to icy calculation with others. "Remember, little one," he tells her later that evening, lifting her onto his knee with a smile that doesn't quite warm his eyes. "Family is everything. We protect our own and we use what we have to secure our place." Even then, she senses she's part of that, what we have, a pretty doll to be dressed up and presented when the time comes. As she grows, the lessons intensify. By 10, she's attending formal gatherings, her hair pinned with jewels, her dresses stiff with embroidery. Victor, her older brother by a few years, teases her mercilessly in private, pulling her braids, hiding her favorite toys. But in public, he stands protectively by her side, his young face already hardening into the mask he'll wear as a man. "Don't cry, Ellie," he whispers once after a particularly rough game leaves her with a scraped knee. "Tears make you weak, and weakness gets you hurt." She learns to swallow her sobs, to smile through pain, because showing hurt invites more of it. Their father watches these interactions with approval, seeing in Victor a future enforcer and in Eleanor a valuable asset to be polished. One afternoon, when she's 12, a visitor arrives, a wealthy merchant from a rival city, eyeing potential ties. Reginald summons Eleanor to the receiving room, where she curtsies gracefully as taught. The man compliments her poise, her budding beauty, and Reginald nods knowingly. Later, alone with her, he explains, "See how he looked at you. That's power, my dear. Your smile can open doors that armies cannot." She feels a strange mix of pride and unease, like a bird admired in its cage. That night, she overhears her father and Victor discussing the merchant's proposal in hushed tones. She's too young yet, Reginald decides, but soon. "We need stronger bonds," Victor agrees, his voice eager. "I'll make sure no one interferes, father." It's the first inkling she has that her life is a chess piece on their board. The following year brings her first betrothal to Henry Caldwell, a match arranged to solidify political gains. At 13, she's terrified, her heart pounding as attendants fuss over her wedding attire. "Will it hurt?" she asks her nursemaid in a whisper, referring not just to the unknown intimacies but to the whole upheaval. The woman shushes her gently. "Hush, child. It's your duty. Smile and bear it." The ceremony is grand, filled with pomp, but Eleanor feels like a spectator in her own life. Henry is kind enough at first, awkward and fumbling, but the union is short-lived. When the alliance sours, Reginald orchestrates the annulment with ruthless efficiency. Public hearings declare Henry ineffective, a humiliation that leaves him red-faced and furious. Eleanor, forced to testify, repeats the scripted lines. It was never consummated properly. The words taste like ash, and the courtroom laughter haunts her dreams. Victor escorts her home afterward, his arm around her shoulders in a rare show of affection. "You did well," he murmurs. "It's over now." But she knows it's not. It's just the beginning. In the aftermath, Eleanor withdraws, spending hours in the palace gardens, tending to flowers that bloom despite the harsh soil. She finds solace in their quiet resilience, whispering secrets to the petals. "Why can't I choose?" she confides to a rose one day, pricking her finger on a thorn and watching the blood well up. It's a small pain, controllable, unlike the larger wounds inflicted by her family. Her father notices her melancholy and summons her for a talk. "This is the way of our world, Eleanor," he says sternly, though not without a hint of what might be concern. Marriages build empires. Yours will too. She nods obediently, but inside, a seed of rebellion takes root, not outward defiance, but a quiet determination to guard her inner world. Then comes Marcus Beaumont, her second husband at 17. Unlike Henry, Marcus captivates her from the start. He's dashing, with a warm laugh and eyes that see her, not just her value. Their courtship, brief as it is, feels like a stolen breath of freedom. They walk the gardens together, his hand brushing hers. "Tell me about your dreams," he urges one evening under the stars. She hesitates, then shares haltingly. "I dream of a place where I'm not a pawn, where love isn't a transaction." He squeezes her hand. "With me, it won't be." For the first time, she believes in possibility. Their wedding night is tender, awkward but genuine, and in the months that follow, joy creeps into her life. She laughs freely, her face alight when he enters a room. They plan a future, children, travels, a life intertwined. But Victor watches with growing unease. He's too soft. He tells Reginald over wine one night, as Eleanor overhears from the shadows. He makes her think she can have more than we allow. Reginald chuckles. "Jailus, my son. No matter. If he becomes a liability, we'll handle it." The words chill her, but she pushes them aside, clinging to her happiness. When the attack comes, it's sudden. Blades in the dark on the palace steps. Marcus falls, blood staining the stone, and Eleanor rushes to him, screaming for help. She nurses him tirelessly, brewing broths herself, sleeping by his bedside. "You have to fight," she pleads, holding his hand. "For us," he smiles weakly. "I will, my love." For a month, hope flickers. Then, the final blow. Victor's men burst in, dragging her away as she fights and cries, "No! Please, brother, have mercy!" His face is stone. This is mercy, Eleanor. For the family. She pounds on the door until her fists bleed, hearing the struggles within fade to silence. When it's over, Victor emerges, wiping his hands. It's done. She collapses, the world fracturing. In the days after, she wanders like a ghost, food untouched, sleep elusive. Reginald visits, his tone pragmatic. "Grieve quickly. We need you strong for what's next." Victor tries to console her once, awkwardly. "Was weak. You'll see that in time." But she turns away, her trust shattered. From then on, her eyes hold that emptiness, her smiles mechanical. This history shapes the woman who stands at the altar with Edmund, vowing eternal bonds she knows are fragile. As the wedding feast turns to horror, she draws on those lessons, retreating deeper into herself. During the nut-gathering spectacle, she imagines herself as one of her garden flowers, rooted, enduring storms. When the consummation is ordered, she dissociates completely, her mind wandering to memories of Marcus's gentle touch, contrasting the mechanical present. To flesh out Edmund's side, consider his journey to the city. Leaving his familial estate, he rides with a small entourage, the autumn leaves crunching under hooves like brittle bones. His father pulls him aside before departure. "Son, be vigilant. Those hawthorns are serpents in silk." Edmund nods, but the warning feels abstract until he arrives. The initial greeting is laced with subtle barbs. Reginald's questions about his lineage probe for weaknesses. "Your family has held power long," the leader muses. "But power shifts like sand." Victor's silence unnerves him more, that predatory smile hinting at unspoken threats. During the pre-wedding weeks, Edmund seeks moments of respite. One day, he slips into a quiet chapel, kneeling before an altar much like the one awaiting him. "Grant me strength," he prays, "or a way out." No answer comes, but he overhears two clerics whispering. The last one lasted longer than expected. Pity about the strangling. It confirms his fears. He writes home, coding his letters. The weather here is stormy. Pray for clear skies. But he knows interceptors decipher them. The wedding itself amplifies his isolation. Standing there, feeling Victor's gaze, he recalls childhood tales of heroes facing dragons. But this dragon is human and far more terrifying. As the night unfolds, his humiliation peaks during the enforced acts. In the intervals, he stares at the wall, mind racing. How do I live with this? Eleanor, beside him, offers no words, her silence a shared armor. Post-event, the ripple effects extend. In distant courts, kings discuss the scandal in private councils. If the holy seat sinks to this, one monarch says, what hope for the rest? Ambassadors add details in their reports. The women crawled like beasts, the air thick with despair. Some cardinals present that night resign quietly, seeking remote monasteries to atone. Others harden, embracing the corruption. Eleanor's life in her new home evolves slowly. At first, she and Edmund navigate awkward silences. Over breakfast one morning, he ventures, I'm sorry. She meets his eyes briefly, as am I. But we survive. Gradually, a fragile understanding forms, not love but mutual respect. She channels energy into reforms, establishing shelters for the needy, funding schools. Why help them? A courtier asks. Because no one helped me, she replies softly. Her children become her anchor. She tells them bedtime stories of resilient heroes, omitting her own pains. Victor's downfall is poetic. After Reginald's death, rumored self-poisoning in a botched scheme, he scrambles for alliances, but former allies desert him. In exile, he's ambushed during a skirmish. Any last words? His attackers sneer. Tell my sister I was wrong. He gasps, but the message never reaches her. Reginald's end bloated from excess. He ingests a tainted draught meant for a rival. Servants find him convulsing, his final mutter, the power. It burns. Irony at its finest. Elias Whittaker, the dutiful recorder, pens his diary in secret, candlelight flickering. I write not for glory, he notes, but lest history forget. His words, hidden in archives, surface centuries later, a testament to quiet courage. In expanding this, consider parallel stories. A courtesan from that night, let's call her Lydia, escapes the city afterward, vowing never to return. She starts a new life in a quiet village, teaching young girls self-reliance. I saw the depths, she tells them, her chose to rise. Her tale intersects indirectly, perhaps sending anonymous letters of support to Eleanor, whispers of solidarity, or a young cleric present, Thomas, haunted by inaction. He later pens treatises on reform, sparking early calls for change. That night, he confesses in code, showed me the beast within the robe. These additions enrich without repetition, showing the event's broader impact. Eleanor's resilience inspires in her final years. She commissions art depicting strong women, subtle rebellions against her past. Ultimately, the message endures in the face of crushing power. The human spirit's core remains untouchable. Eleanor's story, from child pawn to revered figure, proves it.